Where does inner knowingness come from? Don't think about it. Do not think. Inner knowingness doesn't come from that part of ourselves that thinks about things, that rationalizes, categorizes, plans, and strategizes. It doesn't come from that place. Inner knowingness, it comes from inside you. Everybody has it, but not everybody's in touch with it. And it takes time, practice, attention, desire to want to listen to what you know inside yourself. And so when we're little kids, we know all kinds of things before we go to school. And when we get to school, the things that we know inside of us, we find out they're quite different than what we might learn in school. And so what do most of us do? We make ourselves wrong. We think what we know is wrong and what other people tell us must be right, especially adults, especially authority figures, especially teachers and all those other folks that tell you they know how it is. And so gradually or quickly or suddenly we disconnect from that deeper source of knowledge that's right inside of us. And that source of knowledge is also very relational. And so whatever it is that we come into contact with, whether that's in our inner dimensions of ourself or while we're out walking around in the world, information and knowledge gets revealed through interaction. So, for example, we're out walking along the beach, you want to pick up a stone, and you look at the stone and you feel the stone, and there's some knowledge inside that stone, and there's some knowledge inside of you, and it mixes together, and maybe impressions start to come inside of you, maybe thoughts, maybe words, maybe you just get a feeling, and there's been an exchange of knowledge that's happened. Now the same thing when you go inside, when you're meditating, sitting quietly with yourself, sifting through all the things that are going on inside of you. There might be a lot of things going on inside of you, and it's kind of hard to discern your inner knowingness from all that other information that's floating around inside your head. Maybe it's even cluttered up your head. Maybe it's even cluttered up that precious, sacred inner space inside of you, that inner place of contemplation, of rest and inquiry. So how do you discern the difference between what you know, that special inner knowingness, call it your inner authority, your inner guidance system? How do you discern that from all that other information that's cluttered up inside of you? So we're going to explore questions like this in this little series that I've cooked up for the winter time, to slow down, to do some practices, to cultivate bringing our senses from the external world. You know, we spend a lot of time Google searching everything, a lot of time on Zoom calls, a lot of time in the virtual world. So practices to unplug, to make that transition from external awareness to internal awareness, bringing your attention inside, cultivating that inner space, that inner luminosity, and a beautiful special meeting place where your outer personality, that part of yourself that's out walking around in that very kooky world right now, and that inner part of yourself. Yep, that inner part that you might call your soul, your true nature, your deeper nature, your higher self, your wise self. And so it's about doing practices to make time to be in that meeting place where your external self and your internal self get to hang out together, have some good conversations, share knowledge and experiences and information. And it's a place to nourish, relax, rejuvenate, and start to clean up maybe some of the clutter that's inside of you that makes it overwhelming or confusing or difficult to know what you know. So I have a lot of fun doing this myself. I've had years and years of practice, and especially many years ago when I started to specifically work with the Akashic Records and do consultations for people, which I still continue to do readings for people. And so I've had this long relationship of going inward to answer questions. And I would always do this with a journal practice where I would write a question down and then I would pause, go to that inner place, and a response would come. I happen to have the gift of automatic writing, so things can just come and I can just write them and they come into words. It works differently for every person. It may come in images, it may come in impressions, it may come in feeling states, it may pull up a memory or a metaphor. It can come in many different ways. And with more practice, it becomes more clear and you understand what that inner language is, and it's a wonderful resource, especially in this time where we've got a lot of really conflicting and confusing information, way too much information, and it's really hard to sort through. So practicing that real inner discernment is a really helpful tool. And this is not a course on like contacting your spirit guides or your inner guides or anything like that. This is more experiential. This is like a self-exploration. I'll be creating short 20-minute tracks that will guide you into a deeper state so you can access this level of your consciousness more easily. And we can have some fun finding out what's there. And the great thing is when you're listening to this, there's going to be a lot of other people listening at different times. But there's a field of people gathering together, listening inward. And the more of us that do that, the stronger that field becomes and the more that we know together. I like to think of the principle of the more the merrier. So when you've got good companions who can listen carefully, who have that refined sensitivity to sensing the subtle dimensions of life, the etheric dimensions of life, who feel things really deeply, then this is like a wonderful, wonderful field which we can draw upon also for our own inner knowingness. So there's lots of cool, fun stuff we'll be trying out, and look forward to sharing more.